Hello, Amanda Schmidt.
Hello.
Welcome, all viewers. We welcome you with our characteristic enthusiasm and good cheer, not to be replicated anywhere else but here. Outwit, Outlast, the season finale episode. It's bittersweet.
It is.
How are you today,
I'm
Amanda?
doing all right. How are you?
I'm fine. It is it was very warm here, and then it got windy, and then it got cold, but that's nothing compared to what the survivors have been experiencing. What evacuation, by the way?
I think they were talking about Jake, like the snake
Oh,
evacuation.
oh, they were talking about the extreme heat, and I thought, and then an evacuation, and I thought, oh wait, I must have missed that episode where the tsunami came through.
Yeah,
But
I had the same thought for a second. Like there have been seasons where they have evacuated them and then not ended up airing it. Like I think David versus Goliath had
yeah,
two evacuations and they only aired one.
yeah,
So for a second I was like, did we miss something? And then I was like, oh right, Jake got bitten by a snake. I forgot.
yeah.
Feels so long ago.
Well, it does feel so long ago. This is the modern, the maybe the last of an era of episodes. I just wonder what post 50 is going to look like. I feel like this might have been, for me, kind of a golden run of seasons, even if other viewers disagree. I just I like the kinder, gentler Survivor, and I like the emphasis on strategy. And there is something about the players knowing the game so well that has affected gameplay in a way that is not bad. And I think we've had some memorable players,
Yeah.
including this season, even if you found it a little bit draggy. Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, I think that's fair. I think pre-merge I was bored out of my mind, and post-merge I have thought has been much more interesting, and there have been really good cast members, I thought. But I think even post-merge, Geoff made it seem like it was going to be this crazy, unpredictable season, and even in his recap of this season, I feel like we had watched two different seasons. Like he starts the episode by doing his whole spiel and he's talking about how loyalty completely vanished at the merge and everything was unpredictable. But I both found the votes a little bit predictable, although I think that might have been more because of the edit than because of the decisions people were making. And I thought there was a lot of loyalty on this season actually. Juwan and Sage were so tight the whole time, and Savannah and Rizzo and Sophie were consistently loyal to each other. Sophie had an opportunity to backstab them and didn't. So I was surprised that he was characterizing this season as one where there was no loyalty. Like compared to last season, there was a lot less, but I don't know. I think it wasn't a bad season. I think it had some really good characters. Um,
They're people, you know.
yeah,
They're living, breathing people with feelings, you know.
that's an interesting point.
I call them characters all the time. I think the show kind of wants us to think of story so much that it's hard not to think of them sometimes as characters in a play or
Yeah,
some
well, and you know what?
epic
In a
adventure.
way, they are characters, right? Like, we're not seeing, I don't feel like I personally know really well Rizzo or Savannah. Like, we're seeing a version of them, which feels a little bit like
For
seeing
sure.
a character who is, they're kind of playing a character. I don't know. But, yeah, they are people. I think you're probably right about that.
I think every reality show, some more than others, does an interesting dance with persona versus person. And
Yeah.
Survivor was one of the first, and maybe, as far as a game show, reality show, one of the first. So,
Yeah.
well, where would you like to start us off? This was this. Do you feel like celebrating this win?
I do actually. I think we should start from the beginning, probably, but I think maybe
Okay.
start with a spoiler alert first, which is that Savannah won in the end, and I am happy with
That,
that. And I think that that win and this finale, like, made this a season that I am overall happy with. Like, I don't think it's the best season of the new era. I definitely don't think it's the best season of Survivor, but I think it ended in like a pretty satisfying way, to be honest.
that's very fair.
But all right, if we start at the beginning, I think we should start with our
Yeah.
final five, which was Rizzo,
Right.
Savannah, Christina, Sage, and Sophie. They're coming out of kind of a chaotic tribal council, and they're all really hoping they can vote Savannah out. And then Savannah wins individual immunity for the fourth time, which ties the record for women on Survivor, which is awesome. And
Yeah.
she crushed it. And I figured she would at least be tying the record, but I'm really happy that she did.
Yeah, me too. That was a terrific win too. It was just really, you know, all of Savannah's challenge wins have not, it just seems like never in doubt.
Yeah.
Almost the way that she digs in and focuses. She's
Yeah.
a pretty fierce competitor.
She is.
I know. I wonder what would have happened. Do you think that Savannah would have gotten voted out if she hadn't won immunity?
Yes. I actually do. Because I think that Sophie realized after that final six vote what a colossal mistake she made, and she would have done anything to look like she actually was in control of her game. Like, I think that that was so, like it was really crash and burn in a really embarrassing way. And like when she came back from that tribal council, she was so clearly embarrassed of what had happened.
Yeah.
I think that was enough to spur her to flip on Savannah if she could have.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you. Okay, so Savannah won, and then we had some jockeying about who was going to go. Who do you want to make fire against was really the driving question, which says something about how fire has come to dominate the gameplay.
Yeah.
But I know you're not a fan of fire. I've come to sort of enjoy it, even though I think it radically skews. You can strategize brilliantly the whole game and then get tripped up because you can't get a spark, and that just seems unfair to me. But
yeah, and I'm not against fire, like, in principle. I just really loved fire before they forced it. Like, I really loved fire when it only happened when there was a tie at the final four, because the times that it happened then
Oh.
was so dramatic and tense, because it's like, I can't believe that they've let this deadlock happen and they're letting it go down to this fire making competition. That's really exciting to me.
Yeah.
This like forced
Yeah.
drama where the producers are like, people are always so excited when it goes to fire, so we're gonna make it always happen. Like, to me, I think that when you force drama just for the sake of drama, it sort of loses a lot of the tension and intrigue. It loses the drama, I think, because it's so clearly like there. It's not there for like deciding something integral caused by something extreme like a tie vote at the final four. It's there because the producers think that we like it, and I just think it loses a lot of the appeal for me because of that.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it's clearly lost its appeal to you. I think it become so accustomed to it that I think of it as it doesn't feel as forced to me anymore. But that does raise a question for me, which is, fire is coming. It always comes. How can you go the whole game on an island where you need fire and not even try once to make fire, let alone practice beforehand? Rizzo even said also about puzzles, like you should probably practice some of these in your backyard. Yeah, Rizzo, I think the best players probably do.
Yeah.
But how could Rizzo and Savannah, of all people, never have made a single fire on that island?
That is baffling to me. And the same thing happened last season where Sam had never made a fire before. Like, how are all of these big fans. Like Rizzo talks about it like Survivor is like his holy grail. Like, what do you mean you've been? And
Right.
he must have known about himself that it was be really likely that he would be in Final Four fire making because he's never won an immunity challenge and he's a strategic threat. Like, to me, at like
Yeah.
10, I realize that and I start making fire. Like, let alone like he should have been doing it before he even came onto the beach if he's such a big fan. It's just like baffling to me that they know this is coming. Like, why aren't you practicing at all?
I know. And it really kind of makes me feel sad that Christina was so good at it that it put the target on her back then.
I know.
The jury seemed baffled by that too. I don't think it came up in the jury conversation. It came up in the final three deliberations, but I I don't know. I felt a little bad for Christina and a little cheated in that way. It does make a certain kind of strategic sense, of course. If and I saw the montage. Christina was pretty good at making fire.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to make fire against her, um, but I don't know. It's sort of like, oh, suddenly somebody is a threat when I never perceived that threat before.
Yeah.
Again, maybe the villain of the season is the edit. Um,
No, but Christina wasn't a threat until she wouldn't have been a threat, I think, if it weren't for the fire thing. This is the other reason. This is the main reason that fire upsets me is that I think it skews the jury's incentives and therefore it skews the players' incentives when we get down to the finale episode. Like, in every other way, or in almost every other way, things that the jury appreciates and that the jury values are things that help the players make it to the end and make it to the end against players that they can beat. You play an immunity idol, that gets you further in the game, the jury loves it. You blindside someone who's a big threat, that makes you more likely to make it to the end, not against people who can beat you. The jury loves it. Like, there are all these things that you do that both benefit you getting to the end against people you can beat and the jury loves. But then you introduce fire, and like the jury loves fire, but like the decisions that players have to make around fire don't align with their own incentives. Like, Christina's someone you can beat at the end, but you want to get rid of her sooner because you don't want to go up against her in fire. Like, that's a weird incentive to me. And like, I think in other seasons it's happened. It didn't happen this season, where the person who wins the final four individual immunity thinks they have to go into fire, and that's a skewed incentive because it makes the jury happy. But like, if you're putting yourself in fire, you're less likely to make it to the end, and if you're not very good at fire, you're less likely to take out the person who's going to beat you. So it just frustrates me that it messes with the incentives, and I think this season was a weird example of how it messes with the incentives, but it did. And I think that's why Christina went home.
yeah, I agree. I also think the logic is a little skewed. If you really think that you can beat Christina and want to be sitting next to her in the final three, why don't you just choose her to sit next to you in the final three and send two other people to make fire?
Yeah.
Like, why does Christina have to be making fire at all? She
I
doesn't.
mean, I
Clearly,
think like
I feel that's a little bit of a pretext for vote.
that's true.
I'm a little bit. I think honestly, Savannah just wanted her friends around, and she did have a grudge against Christina. They never clicked. She was happy to have the pretext of fire making to vote out a player that she didn't want in her final four.
Well,
That's not a charitable view, but I think there's an argument for
no,
it.
that was definitely a question that I had and that I wanted to ask you was, do you think that this was a strategic decision or an emotional decision? Because I think it benefited her strategically. Because here's the thing, Christina is maybe someone you want to sit next to at the end, but if there's one person in the final four who is obviously going to beat everyone else, I think there is an incentive to put that person up against the best fire maker, regardless of who that is. And you risk sending home someone that you could have beaten, but it's worth it to try to send home this one incredibly dominant person. And I do think that on this season, Savannah was pretty clearly the most dominant of those four. Although, like, I guess I
Yeah.
don't know what the jury thought of Rizzo, but it feels like Savannah and Rizzo were so lockstep, except that Savannah won a bunch of immunities, and I don't know. It's unclear to me whether the jury like loved Rizzo. It's impossible to say what would have happened if he was in the final three, but it does make strategic sense, especially if you're Savannah, to want to get rid of someone who can definitely beat you in fire, because you want to make it to the final three, and if you think you can potentially beat all but one person in fire, then like, yeah, it makes sense to want to get rid of that one person. But I agree with you. Like, I think that her energy was weird. Like, I think when Sophie and Rizzo seemed uncertain about voting Christina out, because for them, Sage was the right person for them to vote out, both for the fire reason and because Sage was a bigger threat in the end than Christina. But Savannah seemed like upset with them for considering it, and like kind of personally upset. And she did kind of give off this like "I want my friends against me" at the end thing. And it's hard to say whether it's "I want my friends" or whether it's like "I want to be up against competitors," because when men come in with this attitude, like "I want to be up against competitors" at the end, everyone's like, "Yeah, like he wants to beat the best." And I think that might have been what Savannah was doing. Like, I think that she has recently started to like and respect Sage, and I think it's because she's recognizing Sage's gameplay. And so I think that it's, like, very hard for me to parse out whether it's, like, that she wanted to be around her friends and she didn't like Christina, or whether it's because she wanted to be up against people she really respected and thought played the best games, or whether it was actually strategic.
I think, like all things this season, it's probably a mixture of all of that. But, you know, just the way that she responded to Sophie saying, "I'm not going to listen to any arguments," she was kind of petty and hurt and bitter because she didn't get a chance to plead her case. And that's a very emotional response to a friend decision to make that decision without your input. And so I feel like Savannah often would make decisions that were strategically beneficial, but I think sometimes she was making those decisions, they were driven by emotional responses. Yeah. They were reactive too rather than active, which is a different thing that maybe we'll talk about with season 50.
Yeah.
It occurred to me that there's a big difference between the active player and the reactive player this season, especially, and I want to think about that some more.
Yeah.
So Christina got voted out. By the way, I thought Christina's gameplay was much more sophisticated and interesting than we really saw.
I'm sure.
I think Steven regrets saying that it was sloppy gameplay. But everything that she says, the way that she was talking to people, the way that she held her ground with Sage, say, in that final tribal, all spoke to me of a player that was not, you know, sometimes they want to bring the weak player in to the final three because they think they can beat that player. But if they thought that was Christina, I think they badly underestimated her. So,
yeah,
just to say.
Yeah, I think that often it's really easy to think that someone wasn't playing the game at all because the edit like doesn't show the confessionals where they were like talking about the game in an intelligent way, but that doesn't mean that they weren't playing the game. It just means that it didn't fit into the edit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then we were down to 4. And tell us more about that Final Four challenge, Amanda Schmidt.
Yeah, it was not a typical Final Four challenge. It wasn't the like dropping the ball in the track. It wasn't one that I feel like we've seen exactly before. And it had several elements, and it ended with a puzzle that turned into a ball maze where it had to go down and land in the right hole. And I think it was very clear the whole time to me that Sophie was going to win this challenge, actually, because the emphasis should have been on Savannah, because we were like right on the edge of her maybe tying the record for most challenges ever won by anybody. Like 5 people have won that many before. But instead, like the whole challenge, we were watching Sophie struggle to do like a really minor part of it. And I was like, okay, I kind of feel like Sophie's gonna do a comeback here. And then Sophie, I mean, it was a really impressive comeback, and I was so happy for Sophie, but she put that puzzle together. Geoff said that she put it together like she made it. And then he said that she played it like she had been playing it in her backyard her whole life. Geoff was really
Yeah.
excited for Sophie, and everyone was really excited for Sophie. When she won,
Yeah.
Savannah seemed so genuinely happy for her, which I thought was really sweet. I think they do have a really nice friendship. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
just really fun to see Sophie win that one, and it made it a much more interesting, I think, decision, because then she had to decide who to put into fire. And I think if Savannah had been in that position, it would have been less exciting.
Yeah. I, yeah. I mean, don't you think if it was Savannah, it would have been Sage and Sophie?
I don't know. I think Savannah
Or do you
was very genuinely loyal to Rizzo, and so it might have been Sage and Sophie, but I also think that Rizzo seemed like her more obvious competition, so it really might have been Rizzo and
yeah.
Sophie, or it really might have been Rizzo and Sage. I don't know.
I was glad for the first time Sophie didn't get much backlash for choosing not to go to fire. Like Geoff made a point of bringing those different versions of that response up.
Yeah,
One that you really don't like,
both, but I don't.
but
I mean, I think Chris Underwood made the right decision and deserved the credit that he made for putting himself into fire, probably. But I think it set this precedent that has driven me crazy for the last like 10 or 11 seasons. And I think
yeah,
the Chrissy Hoffbeck losing that season drives me so crazy because they didn't know
yes,
the rule was going to change. They would have probably tried harder to stop him from finding all those immunity idols if they didn't think that they could take him out at 4. And they were definitely going
right,
to take him out at 4. And so for him to then win at
right,
fire when we only just learned that fire was going to be forced upon them, and then to win the
right,
finale, just like very frustrating because Chrissy Hoffbeck was amazing and she won
yeah.
4 immunities also.
I really,
Anyways,
I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with her in 50. I really hope she's kind of a forgotten player, but she, in some ways, but she's pretty spectacular. You're right. You made me go back and watch some of that, and
and she's great, right?
I'm excited. It's redemption time,
Yeah,
yeah. And the game owes her a little bit of redemption. I think there's somebody that kind of got messed around with by the game,
yeah,
but I think that challenge was uh, okay. It wasn't a thriller in some ways, like I thought it was going to be, and I think again maybe it was the edit because you're right. You're astutely pointing out the way that edit shifted our focus.
yeah,
But I was so finally, it was nice to see Sophie get it right, and I think then the decision that she made was right, and everybody's responses to the prospect of making fire was pretty revealing about who they are in some ways as
yeah,
players, and I think that it landed okay with the jury too. You know,
yeah,
unfortunately, it gave Savannah a last moment to really shine
yeah,
as the person that consistently rose to the occasion of a
yeah.
challenge. And I think that's, spoiler alert, why she won.
Yeah.
Not that fire making, just that demeanor.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you that I thought that Sophie made the right call putting Savannah and Rizzo into fire. And I actually think she was really smart to say, like, nobody talk to me while I'm making this decision.
Yeah,
Because I think that allowed her to take full credit for the decision. Like, I think when you allow people to argue to you, it does sort of leave some questions for the jury about whether you made a good decision or whether you got manipulated into making a decision. And I think there was
yeah,
no way that anyone could try to suggest that Rizzo had put himself into fire or that Sage had worked her way out of fire. You know, like I think that it's smart to like make that decision entirely your own. And I do think that Sophie needed to prove that she was making decisions that were counter to Savannah and Rizzo's best wishes, which is why I think that it made sense that she put both Savannah and Rizzo in, even though it would mean that one of them would have like a final triumphant moment before facing her in the final three. And I think that kind of just was what it was. I don't know if she could have beaten either of them in the end. Definitely not Savannah, but I think she gave it her all. Because, yeah, I guess what we haven't said explicitly yet is that Savannah beat Rizzo at fire, meaning that Rizzo came fourth, which is funny given his much earlier profession that he doesn't care whether he loses at 10th or at fourth. And I think that the idol's role in that is interesting too, because I did want to ask you, like, after all that time, Rizzo just played the idol on himself when no one voted for him. Like, do you think that if Rizzo had played the idol on Christina and Sage had gone home and then they'd put Christina in fire against Savannah, like, Rizzo would have won the game, right?
Yes.
Like, do you think he should have actually used his idol? And do you think anyone else should have, like, realized that he might have done that and tried to still vote him out? I feel like they all kind of gave up on the idea that the idol could do something besides be played on Rizzo in that final five. And I think both Rizzo should have been thinking about playing it on Christina, and everybody else should have been thinking about trying to manipulate that decision to still vote him out. Because it would have been so fun to see them vote him out in the final five when he misplayed his idol. Like, that would have been iconic. That would have been cinema. But I'm just curious if you thought about, like it feels like the idol could have actually been more interesting in that final five than it was.
I was thinking about that a little bit. I think that there's a version of Rizzo that would have wanted to go home with that in his pocket, you know, that he had the idol the whole game. He used it as a weapon the whole game, and he never played it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That seems like a very Rizzo brag. You know, I forget who was the player that kind of took pride in never playing that idol that they had.
Marianne. She like won the game when she whipped it out and nobody knew about it.
Right. That's right. That was pretty brilliant.
What?
And I can see Rizzo really liking the drama of that, you know, and wanting to replicate that. And I would have been tempted at 5 to gamble that Rizzo was not going to play it again and throw a vote on him or 2, you know, just to see. But I would have been wrong. And then the game would have been, man, really tanked. If you were really manipulative, you could have maybe put yourself in the position to encourage people to put 2 votes on Rizzo or 3, try 3. When he played his idol, then you could have had a backup that you wouldn't have minded seeing going either, and you would have been a win-win.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that would have worked, but that seems too difficult to pull off.
No, I mean, I think all of it probably seemed too risky for all of them. But I think especially with Rizzo, like, just playing the idol on Christina instead of himself, like, for a man who says, I don't care whether I vote out 10th or 4th, like, 5th or 4th really shouldn't matter to you. And, like, no one was going to vote for him. Like, I think he must have known that. So why not throw the idol on someone who you know is going to draw votes? So, like, even if it doesn't end up changing the course of the game, I don't know, like, the jury is excited to see someone play an idol to save someone else. I don't know. I just think he should have known that they weren't going to go on him, and he should... I wonder how much he thought about playing it on Christina. He also seemed genuinely really worried about upsetting Savannah, and it feels possible that he thought about it and decided not to do it because he just wanted to vote with Savannah one more time. So I don't know. But I think that Rizzo was a fun player to watch, and I was sad to see him go, and it made me feel a little guilty for saying that he wasn't a closer when my prediction was ultimately proven to be true.
Well, I would have loved to have. Well, he couldn't close fire making, you know, like that, and he was pretty bad at it. It was funny. I was talking along with the jury, saying, "No, no, you're smothering
I
it. No,
know
no."
he was so
Like I
clearly
was really,
smothering it.
yeah, it was not good. I'm sorry. I would say that there were the opportunities at the end for some really exciting gameplay, and those players did not seize the opportunities.
Yeah,
Sophie time before, and Rizzo in five, and that's too bad. Rizzo, I think, is not quite the genius that he thinks he is, maybe, but he is correct. I think that he did try to
yeah,
rethink how the game is played, and certainly how idols are played, and that will have an effect on the game. I think it's going to be one of those things that reverberates, a little bit. It's a new strategy approach that he introduced into this season better than anybody has in the past, and I was very interested in it.
yeah. He
Uh,
played
I,
the pre-vote idol the way that Yule played the post-vote idol. Like, remember in Cook Islands when Yule had that
yeah,
idol that you could play after the votes were read, and he used it to
yeah,
strong arm everyone? Like, he like
yeah,
destroyed the competition just by saying, "I'm gonna play this idol if you vote for me," or like anyone in my alliance. And I think that
yeah,
Rizzo played this idol despite the change in rules, like as if it was an idol that he could play after the vote. And I think that was really
yeah.
impressive. I agree. I think that it like is a way that sometimes people have tried to play idols, but no one has ever had this kind of success with it.
Yeah.
And some of that is, I think, luck and like the other players feeling weirdly willing to be like, okay, Rizzo has this idol, we can never vote for him. Like that's still kind of baffling to me that they just like went along with it. But I do think that he stuck to that strategy really boldly in a way that nobody really has before.
I think it's interesting to me when I think about the jury questions, and you could see several yellow players that have been in that seven-person majority, if that's correct, just still sort of scratching their heads trying to figure out what went wrong. And the thing that went wrong with it was Joanne and Sage.
Yeah.
You know, and Rizzo and Savannah would not have been anywhere close to the final three if that majority had just stayed tight.
Yeah.
And you flush the idol, you cast 4 votes on Rizzo and 3 votes on Savannah, and you're done. Or whoever. And that yellow supermajority would have gone on. It would have been maybe a more boring game, but we never even had the edit that suggested that should be happening.
No.
I think we got an edit with a lot of focus on Sage's drama,
Yeah.
you know, um, and a lot of focus on Riz, Savannah, Sophie towards the end as this power trio playing from the bottom, but they never felt like they were playing from the bottom.
Yeah.
You've pointed this out several times.
This edit, like the whole season 49 edit, was way too focused on Survivor 50. Like, I think they should have
Yeah,
just let Survivor 49 be the season that it is, but they were all thinking
yeah,
about 50. They really wanted us to think that they had made the right decision putting Savannah and Rizzo on 50, and it was like they were the only thing that
oh
got
yeah,
focus in the edit. And then Sage got some because Sage was in the final three, and same with Sophie. But I didn't even really feel like the Sage storyline was like nicely resolved. Like there was this whole tension with Sage and like all of the like mean girls that she kind of created in her head, and then she and Savannah had this really nice moment of like finally bonding and like kind of being friends, and Sage had like a little moment of like, oh, I was wrong. But I felt like that really got sort of swallowed. Like Savannah picking Sage just kind of felt like it came out of left field, and then it was like, oh, we're friends now. I feel like there was a way to tell that story with
yeah.
editing where it would have felt a little more satisfying and like a moment of closure in the Sage storyline. So I don't know. I just think the editors were like way too focused on 50, and they oversold this post-merge as being unpredictable. And then you're right, there were all of these cool unpredictable strategic moves that could have happened in this final six, final five, and they just didn't. And I think that that made it a little disappointing. But I think I really enjoyed the final tribal council, and I really enjoyed the final three, so maybe we should talk about them. It ended up Savannah, Sage, and Sophie,
Sure.
which Three Girls on a Beach is the first all female final three since Survivor 29, which happened 11 years ago as of the day of the finale, and Natalie Anderson
Yeah.
won. And that was the first season of Survivor I ever watched live where a woman won, because somehow we like hopped between the seasons that we watched, where I watched every man who won in the 20s, and none of the women who won. And so many badass women won in seasons like
Yeah.
20 through 30 of Survivor, and I missed all of them until Natalie. So I was stoked when Natalie won, and that was a fun final three of women, although they were sort of controversial women. And so I just thought it was really nice
Yeah.
and satisfying, and it made me happy that this was the first all-female final three since then.
Me too. And everybody seemed to also be pretty happy by that outcome. And they were three really awesome players, period. But it's so nice to see that dynamic at least flipped. I can't believe that it took that long, you know?
I know.
Well, so these three very different players pled their case, got questions from the jury. What did you agree with Jeff's assessment that they all acquitted themselves very well and that the jury asked very good questions?
Um,
From what we could see.
I have a lot of thoughts on those two questions, so I'm gonna try to parse through them. I think your first question of like, did they explain themselves well? I think Savannah did like a fine job. I don't think she did the best job she could have done, but I think she did okay. We can get to Christina's question to Savannah, because I think that's where Savannah choked, and it was so old school, and I loved it, and I love that it came from Christina, who is such a sweetie pie the
Yep.
whole game. I guess I'm talking about it now. Christina asked Savannah to name a family member of every member of the jury, and Savannah couldn't do it for any of them, except
Maybe
for
two.
what, Nate and Rizzo. Like she could do it for her friends. Oh, and Steven.
Yeah.
She named Steven's partner. But I think that whole
Well, that's
uh that was maybe the only time this season that I have been shocked. And I do love a season of Survivor that shocks me at some point. And I'm really glad that it happened, because I was not expecting that from Christina. And I was not expecting Savannah to botch it so hard. So I thought the jury did a great job. I liked their questions. I liked that Joanne was like really sweet and asked a really sweet question. And I love that Christina asked like the most cutthroat question that anyone could have asked in that moment. I thought it was great. But I thought that Sophie pled her case well. Like, I think the fact that she changed MC's mind was really impressive to me.
Yeah.
And I thought that Sage, the jury was pissed at her for, I think, the reason that you said. Like, that majority alliance was baffled and upset that Rizzo and Savannah were still sitting there, and I don't think that they were upset with Savannah or Rizzo at all. I think they put all of that upset on Sage, and to some extent, I think that's valid. But to some extent, I think it downplays the real strategic work that she did. Like, I think that what Sage should have done in that final tribal council is she should have owned the mistakes that she made while still talking up the really smart strategic moves she made. Like, I think that using Alex as an example of her making a good strategic move was a mistake, because I think Alex was like a clear mistake that she made. That was a time she should have taken out Savannah or Rizzo. But I think that she made decisions that they seemed upset about, like voting Steven out, that I think made a lot of sense.
I'm not sure that Sage um, really understood in the moment the way the jury was viewing her and she emphasized her intelligence background, which would have worked with a different jury or in a different season, maybe as a surprise,
Yeah.
you know. And the way that she talked about threats and threat assessment did counter the my perception that her decisions were often very
Yeah.
emotional, when in fact they were often they were driven by a kind of assessment and logic.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that was the right approach, and I'm not sure that Sage saw herself well enough either to understand how that was going to come across. I don't know.
I think she was
She's a very complicated person.
I think she was right that she needed to prove to them that she was strategic and successfully strategic, because I do think that she was
Yeah,
right that like playing an emotional player was her strategy, and they would have seen her like that. And I think she came, but I think she just leaned into that too hard and should have. I don't know though. I don't know if there's anything she could have said. I think this jury was really upset with her, and like they were bitter that they were on the jury, and they were mostly bitter that she had put them there of everyone. And I think
yeah, yeah,
she could have argued the best final tribal argument, and I don't know if it would have been enough at that point.
yeah,
But I do think that like balancing proving that she was strategic with like I don't know, a little emotion and like some acknowledgement of the fact that she made mistakes would have been
yeah,
useful. So
yeah. You could even sometimes people successfully argue a kind of growth arc, or the
yeah,
ways that they learn from mistakes, or the tension that they had between playing with head or playing with heart. Like I didn't hear that narrative quite emerging in her. Uh, like Sophie seemed to me to have a clear narrative. Like her story was really well
yeah,
told, and she filled in some gaps. I forgot. It's funny. I thought that she did turn out to be a sweetie pie after all, and but it was nice to be reminded of the cutthroat player that she was at the start.
yeah.
And I don't know how Savannah did really. I think she had a resume. It's been a while since we've had a player who won kind of based solely on per- challenge performance, really. But
I mean, I think that she won based. I think that challenge performance was clearly the way in which she was most dominant, but I think she won based on being strategic and cutthroat, and like I think she won based on building the social bonds that she needed to get her through the very few votes where she was vulnerable. Like I think that I think Savannah won because the day of the merge, everyone said Savannah's a threat. We need to get her out, and they couldn't do it. Like I think
yeah,
that's why she won, and I think that was a mixture of immunity wins and building the right bonds and using the right strategy at the right times. So I think she like
yeah.
won from an all around game.
Yeah, I didn't mean to discount the win. Also, just the way that she really courted Sophie at the end, I thought was
Yeah,
sort of brilliant social
me
game.
too.
Um, I I thought it was very interesting that Christina pointed out otherwise the complete absence of a social game on Savannah's part,
Yeah,
and that she's been so resoundingly suggests something about her game.
I
But
know. Like, do you think that a survivor player who, like a survivor winner, should be able to name family members of everyone on the jury? Like, do you think that an important part of a good social game is like getting along with everyone? Like, I guess, like, when we think about a good social game, like, are we thinking about building strategic close bonds, which she did really well? Or do we think about, like, being liked by everyone, which, for example, like Kenzie did really well. Like Kenzie won on a social game in 46, and I'm sure
yeah,
she could have named everyone's family members, every single one of everyone's family members. But I don't know, like, do you think that that's something that she should have been able to do? Like, do you think that makes her a worse winner?
No, not necessarily. I think it just illuminates her game.
Yeah.
Some players really are good, very, very good at establishing a lot of social bonds and networks that are gonna. That's one kind of game, and other players are just really fierce competitors in a different in a way that's less social. I don't know. I thought it was surprising
Yeah.
in a way that she couldn't do it. I really liked the way that Christina said, "I would like for you to try."
Yes.
Like not just let her wriggle off the hook, but really show that she could not do it
Yeah.
from person to person.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's 20. How many days is it now? 20,
26?
26 days. I'm always surprised by how much they seem to have bonded in a relatively short amount of time. They seem to know each other's life stories. They seem often to know so much about each other's biographies that we can't see. There must be some long nights talking around the
Yeah.
fire. And when you're working with somebody, you do need to know them, or just I can't imagine going into that game and not being curious about who I'm playing with. And I think Savannah did pay attention to that, but she wasn't at all trying to remember names. I'm not sure she could remember everybody's name on the jury,
I
but
know.
but but maybe that's not fair. I think she did actually say
No,
everybody's
she
name
did.
as they went across.
I also thought it was really funny that she said Alex. We talked about work because I think it just confirmed for me that Alex
Right.
only talked about work the whole time he was on Survivor.
I don't know. Maybe he certainly did bring it up again in that last episode.
Yeah, in
Oh
DC.
well.
No, I feel. I'm sure he had a much
I for,
more multifaceted personality than we got to see.
By the way, I know that uh, it was clearer to me that there was a good reason to vote Alex out. Maybe not that vote, but anybody that is taking information from one side and giving it to the other side to influence the vote is not a trustworthy ally. It's okay to vote them out. And it was clear that he was
Yeah.
feeding strategy. So you're a traitor. You're not just playing both sides in the middle and getting caught. Well, I guess that's what playing the middle is. But
No, but I
anyway,
actually think
uh,
Sage. I think Sage did kind of. I think Sage should have admitted that it was the wrong time to vote Alex out. Like, I think that was her flaw. Like, she was good at identifying
yeah.
threats, but she was bad at identifying the correct time to take out threats. But she did kind of sell me on that. Like, yeah, okay, if Alex is giving all of your information to the opposite alliance, yeah, he should probably go at some point.
I don't know. I thought all three did present themselves in their games as well as they could. And I thought Sage's was the least successful, but I also think maybe that's a reflection of Sage's game, which is not quite an easy narrative arc.
Yeah.
She was kind of all over the place as a person and a player.
Yeah.
And that was reflected in the final tribal.
Yeah.
Their questions were strategy focused often, and they were smart questions to
Yeah.
ask. I don't know why Geoff was applauding that final tribal over all others, but
I think he always
maybe the
thought.
others have been pretty bad. I still do miss a little bit the venom of some final tribal questions. Nobody was standing up with a bitter rant.
Yeah, but
And
Christina
maybe,
satisfied that for me this time.
yep, in the gentlest but hardest hitting way.
Yeah.
that's what I love about Christina. You know, when Sage went off in that tribal, Christina just said, "Wait, well, I want to come back to this. I don't think you see yourself clearly. You know,
Yeah.
and here's where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
and that's why this is happening." And she did it again in the final.
Yeah.
I just over this episode, I got my esteem for Christina grew a lot. I
Well,
wish we'd seen more of her as a player, but
if nothing else, I think she's a very good speaker and like a firm
yeah,
speaker. Like she like stands her ground, and I did like that.
yes,
And I felt sad for Sage that she only got one vote, and Jawan so openly expressed that he was voting with his heart, not his head. That made me a little sad
I
for her.
know, I know, me too. I thought Sage's tears in the after thing were really about her sudden realization that she had really hurt
Yes.
people,
Yeah.
and she hadn't understood the hurt that the jury members were feeling about her until
Yeah.
that moment, and that was very human and also
Yeah.
made me kind of sad.
It would have been totally valid to break down crying because you had just lost and now you had to be like talking about it while everybody ate pizza and drank
Oh, I know.
champagne and spilled champagne and Joanne was drunk. Um,
No, Sophie
uh,
was too. I
yeah. So yeah, I felt kind of moved that she was like crying, but not even just crying because she had lost, but crying because she realized, I think, maybe when Stephen was asking her questions, like, oh, they're all
yeah,
really upset that I voted them out instead of Rizzo and Savannah.
yeah,
And I think that's another reason that we shouldn't do. I think Geoff was like, this is the thing about the after show. All the emotions are fresh. But I don't know if that's the fresh emotion that I want to see. Like, I think I kind of do want to give them the time to process the experience. Like, I want to hear someone talking about what happened with the benefit of retrospect. Like, I want to see Sage talking to Shannon and like to hear what they've talked about. Like I want to hear
right,
MC talking to Jawan about the hurt that she felt when he voted her out. Like I feel like that's just like one of the reasons that I think they should be doing this live show. And I think that like Sage crying because
yeah,
she's suddenly realizing that she's hurt people is like moving and like not something that you typically get to see on Survivor. So I get that doing it then feels like it gives you that, but I don't know, it feels weirdly kind of intrusive to like see such
yeah,
a raw example of them beginning to process their experience on the show. I don't know.
yeah. I don't. Yeah, they're that. Those are moments when they're most vulnerable and their peopleness is most apparent instead of their characterness,
Yeah.
and you can't ask them to still be characters. I miss the bleachers of every player. You know, I miss seeing some people that just missed the merge. You know, good
Yeah.
players that didn't quite make it. I
Players who got
really,
bitten by snakes.
right. Man, this season would have been so different if he had stayed in. I think maybe he would have gotten voted out anyway, but
No, but at least
something
a couple
tells me,
votes would have been different.
yeah, for sure. So I think the right player won out of those final three, and maybe out of those final five, even.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. And I thought it was a pretty compelling final tribal. I thought Sophie did a good job. I was sort of thinking maybe she was going to get another vote or at least three.
Yeah, when I saw her
But
mouthing the names of the family members while Savannah struggled, that the editors did crush it there because I was like, "Oh
oh
shit,
yeah,
maybe she is gonna get the
yeah,
votes."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was a very illuminating. That was great TV. That question, the follow up, the failure, Sophie mouthing the names. It was true tension for me. I was no longer sure who was going to win with that. failing, and that was sweet.
Yeah.
So, adios, season 49. It was, for me, I rank it up there better than you do, maybe. I was just very taken with the players. Um, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I was forced to pay closer attention.
Yeah.
I remember their names, but will I remember them a year from now? That's the hard part for me.
Yeah, sometimes you need a little retrospect to decide how good a season was. But I think at the very least, I was not angry at the finale, so I think it was better than the Susan Gabler one.
Right. There have been some finales that just make me shake my fists at the TV. That seems so unjust, and this one did not do that.
Yeah.
We had a big trailer for 50, bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
Like, we saw gameplay, we saw like a lot. What are you looking forward to?
I am actually so excited to see all 24 of these players again. As we watched this episode, watched this trailer, I every time I saw a face, I was like, "Yay!" Like even hearing Coach's voice doing the pretentious quote at the beginning, I was like, "I missed Coach!" Like hearing Q's say, "Cancel your doctor's appointment. We're canceling everything." I was like, maybe I do miss Q. Like all these
A
players,
little bit. Yeah.
all these like weirdos, like some of these players who are coming back are so weird, and I
Yeah.
can't wait. I'm really excited to see all of them. Although I was immediately crestfallen upon seeing Mr. Beast and hearing Jimmy Fallon's name, but especially upon seeing Mr. Beast. I don't want him there. I don't need him there. We have 24 players who I'm really excited to see, and we've never had a returning players season with the hour-and-a-half episodes, and I think that that will be really nice because I think every returning players season, the biggest flaw is that you're really excited to see certain players, but then like the edit is kind of skewed where like the fan favorites, like Cerie's probably going to get a lot of screen time, but I don't know if she's going to make it that far because it feels insane to let Cerie make it very far. So I think like
Yeah.
I think that the screen time often feels skewed where like you don't get enough of your fan favorites or you don't get enough of the plot. But these hour-and-a-half episodes, I was like, maybe we really are going to see enough of all 24 of them. And then Mr. Beast showed up on my screen, and now I'm afraid that a lot of the time that we should be getting on these people that we love and the strategy that they're doing is going to instead go to these random celebrity cameos. I don't know, what did you think?
Same. There were a couple of my favorites that didn't make the cast, so I'm a little disappointed as I was watching these players, I was very excited about the new era players that they chose by and large, and I, even Colby kind of worked okay for me. There was a lot of screen time with Colby. I don't know why. But maybe he's sort of aged in a way that makes him less obnoxious for me. And some people we barely saw.
Or like not at all.
But, yeah, right. But that's okay too. I am not a big fan of these Mr. Beast, and if it made my heart sink when who was it, Christian, that said my fate might rest in the hands of Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
I was like, not Jimmy Fallon, come on, no, please. How come it couldn't be Stephen Colbert, or somebody?
Seeing my favorite Christian with Jimmy Fallon's name in his mouth was like disappointing. I was like, I just want to see Christian. I don't want to see Christian talking about Jimmy Fallon.
Also, I don't want Jimmy Fallon to have that much sway over the outcome of the game. No. I don't really trust Jimmy Fallon's influence on the game, maybe. But I don't know. I guess I've got a low estimation of Jimmy Fallon these days. But and that's not fair. He just wants to enter. He just wants to put a smile on our face.
Yeah.
So,
But to me, like, Mr. Beast is like the antithesis of everything that is good about Survivor. Like, Mr. Beast makes content that is entirely created to optimize the algorithm. Like, that's like how he started getting videos watched on YouTube. He just figured out ways to optimize the algorithm. That's all he's been doing since. Like, I haven't seen that much of its content, but like it completely lacks like characters and personality and story. Like it is entirely content that is made to like make 10-year-olds not be able to look away. Um and I just think that for me the best parts of Survivor are the opposite of that. It's like that they're really focused on stories and like people who seem really real. And like here we are seeing all 24 of these people who were successful in part because they were really honest about themselves and like really fun to watch and weird and I don't know. Seeing Mr. Beast's like fake PR trained face on the beach, like just like gave me the ick a little bit. But I get why they're doing it. I get that this is an important season for the future of the show, and they're trying to pull in new viewers, and maybe
yeah.
this will be successful in that. I don't know.
Do you have so how much do you think old school versus new school is going to dominate the narrative?
Don't know. I think like in the past, we've often seen that someone who was sort of in the middle does particularly well. Like Tony on Winners at War. Kagayan really sort
Hmm.
of straddles like old school and new school, especially now that we're on 50 and it's like season 28, right? So I think like often the players that do well are people who can sort of vibe with both sides and like they can strategize enough to beat the new era players, but then they also like understand the feelings and like strategy and playing style from old school. So I don't know, maybe
Hmm.
someone from like maybe someone like Christian from the 30s or like someone from the 20s. There aren't that many from the 20s, but I don't know, maybe someone from like the middle seasons actually does stand a chance. What do you think?
Uh, I think it's either going to be that or it's going to be a new player that like Genevieve that really does seem kind of old school
Yeah,
in, in a way. She's a new school player, but she's got all the instincts of an old school um,
she
player.
does. And I think that one thing the new era has been doing that's nice is that a lot of the, like, they think the average age has gone up. So, like, a lot of the older
Uh,
players on this season, or just like the players in their 30s this season, are like new era players. And I think
yeah,
that someone like Genevieve, who is like mature and thoughtful and really strategic, but also like has sort of, I agree, like some sort of old school attitude that makes me think she will fit well on a beach with like Jenna Lewis and Stephanie LaGrossa. Like, yeah, I think
yeah,
she stands a chance. I think someone who like didn't win but did well in a new era season, like Charlie, honestly, or Emily, or like
yeah,
Genevieve, definitely could take it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. There you go. Uh, I think it'll be very interesting. I don't want to nail. I don't want to hold each other to an idle prediction. This far out. I got to think about it some more.
Yeah, we gotta at least
Um,
watch the first episode.
yeah. Plus, also, I was thinking about the way that some players are obvious targets. Like they're just walk into the game with a target on their back, and and some other players are like so not a target that they're going to last longer
Yeah.
is my guess, and that's where you're going to find your winner. I don't know. If I'm playing against D, I'm going to vote her out
Immediate. I
as
like I think my
as fast as I can.
if she is on the tribe that loses first, it feels really likely that she's gonna go home. Um
Yeah,
Even more so
yeah,
than there are three winners now, right? But I think
yeah.
nobody on 50 watched 49 because we're only just watching it.
Right.
So who knows what's going to go on with Savannah and Rizzo? Like, who knows what the impressions of them will be? And I think D is a much more threatening winner than Kyle for some reason, but I do think just coming onto the beach as one of three winners has to really hurt them. Like I think they're
Yeah.
obvious targets. I think like someone who should have won the game 5 times, like Suri, obvious target. Yeah.
Like a Stephanie is going to last longer than a Suri, unless Suri works some of that same magic that Suri almost always seems to work, really. Suri is a very good
I
survivor.
know the fact that she came on to
Uh,
Game Changers and still managed to last till the end, like her most recent time playing, like she did almost win and get voted out on a total fluke. Like she was just the
yeah,
only person that didn't have an advantage to save her. So,
I know. A heartbreak. Yeah, that's a heartbreaker.
yeah,
That's one of the legendary
I
heartbreakers.
know. Um,
All right.
so maybe she'll do it again. I don't know. I would love to. Like that would be the most satisfying ending of 50 for me if Suri won. That's it. That's like the best possible season.
That would be pretty good. I think so too. I'm with you.
Um,
Well, I am going to miss uh, our weekly breakdowns, and February is pretty close. So, I'm excited to do it again. I hope you are too.
yeah. And I'm certainly going to be doing some rewatching between now and February. So maybe we can get a special
Me too.
edition like South Pacific episode going.
Ooh, all right. And it was very, very fun to watch you and Zoe uh, talking too. I thought both did a great job.
Yeah, shout out to our special guest host.
Yeah, shout out, big props to Zoe. I hope Zoe is watching to the end of this. Because Zoe, you did a great job. You did a great job coming in, you know, with just cold. That was awesome.
All right. Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much to you,
Ah,
Dad,
thank
for
you.
doing this with me. And thank you so much to everyone who has been watching. I'm excited to see you in February and maybe sooner.
Maybe sooner. I can promise you that, well, I can promise you I'll see you sooner.
Well, I'll see. I meant like in that instance, I was talking to our general audience.
Hey, general audience, I can promise that mattress behind me is going to be gone for the season 50 podcast. That's the only promise I can make.
You better stick to it.
I better. You're right.
Yeah. Everyone's gonna
Maybe I'll just.
know.
Oh yeah, all 9 of them. All right. Hey, I love you, Amanda.
I love you too.
Have a good night.
Good night.